any vote on that specific permit because I live close, but the more general question of, whether you can open something anywhere is that's more diffuse.
We can certainly follow back with the planning commissioner later on that question. Definitely noted.
Chair Harmon, this is Madeline. I see a Matt Lethen in the attendees with their hand raised. I'm wondering if that's Kelly.
It is, yes.
Okay.
I don't know about this invasion by San Mateo here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad you can hear me. This must be my husband's default. I might have to just get on using my phone. This is kind of goofy. I am not tech savvy here. If anybody has no advice, I'm going to try to rejoin from my phone because he works for the city of San Mateo. That's why. And it's backwards too. I don't know. Okay. Let's try this a different way. Okay. Goodbye. I'll come back in a minute.
He's definitely at a quorum. Oh, there we go. Darn. Do we know, are we expecting Mary Lou? That would be the last, so once Kelly rejoins, we'd be only short by one, right?
Yeah. I don't know if we're expecting Commissioner Johnson. No, we did not hear a response from her, but you do have a quorum.
I was going to give Kelly just a moment to get back in, and then we'll get started. Alrighty, since we're uncertain whether our 7th commissioner is joining or not, I will go ahead and get started. I think before we even do roll call, Pamela was interested in providing us some information.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a while before I joined back. My name is Pamela Wu, Community and Economic Development Director. I am subbing in for Michael Laughlin today. He's on a very well-deserved vacation. Yay, yay. A lot of people are actually enjoying the summer this year. Good for them. I'd also like to introduce Eliseo Amaya to you. Some of you probably have met him at ARC meeting. So if it's doable to turn on your video, there you go. So Eliseo will be transitioning into Madeline's responsibility in the future. We're going to say bye to Madeline, but welcome Eliseo. Eliseo was our intern, and we're lucky enough to convert him into our assistant planner. So I want to make sure that we introduce Eliseo to all of you. Thank you. And also, just before you open the meeting, Chair, so I do want to clarify what's happening with the cannabis item tonight. So I've sent an email out to all of you. So this is one of the projects that we have contacted out to the planning consultant, Brian Mollart, to work on it. It's I'll still provide a presentation, but Brian actually had a urgent matter that he cannot be here today. So given that we have provided a public notice for this item, what I was proposing to do is to have you still open the meeting and also open the item, and I will provide a very high-level overview of the presentation, and then just take questions from Planning Commission and also members of the public, if there are any, and then we'll take notes and provide that back to you in the following meeting. The only action for you to take tonight will be to consider a continuance to the August meeting. So that will be a bit of unusual. And then if that's okay, when we get there, and then we'll continue with the rest of the meeting as per the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right. Let's get this show on the road. Eliseo, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair. Chair Harmon?
Present.
Vice Maddie?
Here.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Here.
Commissioner Durazo?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Lethen?
Here.
And Commissioner Morgan?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Vice Chair Madden, would you like to lead us in the pledge today?
Sure thing. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. I skipped my spiel at the beginning. Thank you to everyone for attending the Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission will continue to hold its meetings remotely via Zoom until such time as it is determined that it's safe to meet in person. If we have any attendees, please know that we do want to hear from you. If you're in the audience and you would like to address the Commission during public comment for an item on the agenda, please use the raise your hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. When it's your turn to speak, planning staff will call your name, unmute you, and provide 3 minutes to address the Commission. If you are joining by telephone, you also may address the Commission during public comment by pressing *9, and staff will address you most likely by your phone number and unmute you. You would also be given 3 minutes. Please note, anyone in attendance may only speak once per agenda item, and we do not have ceding of time to other participants. At this time, we would be open for public comment on items not on the agenda. Do we have any participants that wish to raise their hands to address items not on the agenda? Do we see any hands?
There are no hands.
Excuse me, Chair. I think you skipped the approval of minutes.
That is. Oh yes, yeah. Well, we can do that next. Okay. Yes, I got the whole insertion of this special event threw me off of my script. But yes, I don't see any hands, so we will return to review the minutes. Do we have a motion regarding the minutes?
There's a few errors in it.
Comments.
It's marked down as all commissioners having attended, whereas Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Biasotti, I believe, were absent. And it's marked down as 6 present for all the voting. And at the last item, I think item 8B, it shows that Commissioner Johnson abstained, but she wasn't here. So there's a number of corrections to make.
My recommendation to you, Chair, is not to approve the minutes, and let us clean it up and bring it back to you.
All right. Should we just move to continue this minutes until corrected at the next meeting?
Through the chair. Just for the edits and corrections for the minutes for the following meeting, on the conduct of business, Memorial Recognition Subcommittee appointment, it doesn't list Commissioner Madden and myself as being appointed to that subcommittee, so that can be included in the edits.
Noted. Thank you.
Oh yeah, it's just a dot, dot, dot. I could have sworn I saw a version of this that, oh no, that was the previous month's, right? The one that I signed. Okay. Right. All right. Are there any other further comments? Seeing none, I will move to continue our minutes item from this meeting into the next.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call.
Chair Harmon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Madden,
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Durazo,
Aye.
Commissioner Letton,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Announcements of conflict of interest. I don't believe we have any address-based. Oh wait, that's right. That's the minutes. Does anyone wish to announce a conflict? I see no hands. Right. To our agenda. So now we have reached our public hearing. Director Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alicia, can I have my presentation? Thank you. Great. So the item for you, and will be again for August, is to consider the establishing commercial cannabis regulation. Next slide, please. So the agenda for tonight and also again for August will be in more detail. So we want to bring to you City Council's direction to staff to start establishing a cannabis ordinance, and then we'll provide the background on where state law falls and where the City of San Bruno regulation falls, and then also to recommend a commercial cannabis program. We'll also outline the qualifying location to allow such operation and provide you an outline of what the ordinance is going to look like. Mind you that this is a Planning Commission recommendation to City Council for amending the ordinance. There will be a number of ordinances for Council to take action, but the Planning Commission will have recommendation authority over Chapter 12, which is the zoning code. We'll also provide you with other consideration. Part of the commercial cannabis program will include an operator permit and also a future conditional use permit. So the operator permit will regulate the person, the business who are running it, and also the conditional use permit will provide regulation over the land use activities. Finally, staff will provide Planning Commission with a recommendation for City Council and entertain any questions that Planning Commission may have. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, this was one of the directives identified by City Council actually in their 2021 work plan. Due to staff shortage and whatnot, we have not had a chance to start preparing for the ordinance and related activity until late last year. So Community and Economic Development Department reached out to a planning consultant, Brian Mallar with Land Logistics, who were supposed to be here making a presentation to you, and also working in conjunction with City Attorney's Office to start working on the cannabis ordinance project. In February, we brought the study session to City Council and asked for direction. So per the City Council's direction, they directed staff to continue to develop the code and also the related procedure documents. And City Council made it very clear that there will be no more than 3 commercial cannabis operations in the entire city. This could include any combination of maybe 2 retailers and 1 delivery, but no more than 3. City Council has also expanded the allowed area to include 10 Friend and also along El Camino, San Bruno. We'll have a map to show you in more detail. Lastly, this will not be any sort of on-site consumption. This will be a storefront sales where you can buy cannabis-related product as in like a retail store, and also a delivery distribution uses in the M1 zone only. Next slide. Next slide. So as I mentioned, this is really to provide you a regulatory background. In 2016, the state had allowed more cannabis-related use, which is the 2016 Adult Use of Marijuana Act, which really allowed people over 21 years to have recreational use of marijuana in addition to medicinal. This also allows for commercial and non-medicinal cultivation, processing, labs, distribution, and sales via licensing and tax. Next slide. In 2020, the state opened up even more related to delivery of cannabis for two people who are over 21 years and older, and also in the city of San Bruno, where we had a prohibition of any cannabis in code, but the voter in 2020 voted to approve a cannabis tax initiative. So this will be a first step to allow commercial cannabis activity in the city of San Bruno. As I mentioned, there's a slew of other ordinance amendments that will have to follow suit. Amending the provision in the city code will be another one, and also to establish a tax rate for the cannabis operation will be another one, and there's also some other related provisions in the muni code that will also be part of the code amendment presented to City Council. Next slide. So what we're recommending, as I kind of mentioned, are twofold. The first one is what we call the cannabis retailers. These are for any sort of a retail sales of cannabis or cannabis products, packaging, labeling of product for sale. This can also include some sort of a delivery component, but their main activity is to do retail. You probably have visited some of these stores. They are in San Francisco, Pacifica, or Santa Cruz. So that you can walk in and purchase cannabis-related products. The second category would be the cannabis distribution facility. If you will, this will be a cannabis Amazon-like. So there will not be a retail outlet, but what they do is that they only distribute driving delivery of the cannabis product from point A to point B. Given that they're more industrial in nature, we're proposing to allow these type of uses only in the M1 district. So they do not necessarily have to have a retail component, but they're strictly doing delivery. Altogether, the number of these commercial outlets will not be more than 3 in the entire city. Next slide. As I mentioned, City Council has provided a very clear directive to staff, and these commercial cannabis use will not include commercial cultivation, commercial manufacturing, commercial testing and laboratories, commercial micro businesses, or temporary cannabis events. Next slide. So the consideration for these, how to locate these commercial cannabis, no more than 3 throughout the city, we're proposing San Mateo Avenue, portions of El Camino, and 10th Front for the storefront, and mainly the M1 district for the distribution. Next slide, please. So this map is a little small, but you can see kind of an overlay district. As I mentioned, it's mainly the downtown area, the industrial district to the north, and also up and down along the our spine El Camino Real, and extends to 10th Front. Next slide. This next map shows the sensitive uses. So we have also proposed a sensitive uses, which includes youth center, parks, schools, to be separated or to have a safe distance of 600 feet from these commercial cannabis operations. So if you were to take the overlay district and then start putting the bubbles around it, those will be essentially, a majority of them is going to cluster on San Bruno Avenue in the M1 district, and the north end of San Mateo and the south end of El Camino. That will be where a commercial cannabis operation can be proposed to be one of the 3. Next slide. So other consideration, as I mentioned, this is a land use allowance, which will be part of the zoning code. What staff is proposing is a brand new a zoning code provision to be added. So anytime there's a discretionary review of a code amendment, CEQA is applicable. So we're going to be utilizing a categorical exemption because there are only a limited number of commercial operation and also distribution will have, and I believe the section of the categorical exemption is listed in the staff report. Next question. I'm sorry, next slide. So that's it. So I'm going to pause. Also, you can go back. That's fine. That's fine. So I'm going to pause my presentation. As I mentioned, I'm providing a very high-level, abbreviated version of the presentation. And I do want to remind the Planning Commission that there are a few actions that you may have to take. Number one, we're here to take any questions. I'll try my best to answer any if they're not too difficult or too technical. If I notice that there are a number of members of the public in the attendees, so if there are hands raised, Chair, you may want to take the questions and we'll provide responses at the following meeting. Number three, I do want to mention that I've also received a number of emails today. Some are in support of the ordinance amendment and some have concerns of the ordinance amendment. I will be forwarding those to Brian Millard, the planning consultant, and also Michael Laughlin as part of the next month's packet. And so the only action that staff is asking Planning Commission to consider is to continue this item to the August 16th Planning Commission meeting. And I say all of this to let you know that I will take all of the notes and pass it on to Michael Laughlin, as this will be my last Planning Commission meeting with all of you. And I'll go into detail at the end of this meeting. So with that said, I'm going to turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Pamela. At this time, we would normally have the period for clarifying questions and comments from the commission. I think given that we're going to review the presentation again, that seems unnecessary, and we could, if there's, we can, if we have questions that we want answers to at the next meeting, I think that would come in the final period after public comment. So if there's general agreement, we can move on to public comment at this point. All right. Do we have hands?
Yeah, we have multiple hands from the attendees.
Alrighty. Let's begin admitting our
We'll start off with David Butler. So David, you are allowed to talk, and I would like to remind you that you only have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, everyone. And my first question would be, I understand from what staff has said is that there won't be a vote on this issue tonight. Is that correct? That question is to Pamela Wu.
That is correct.
Thank you, ma'am. And then now referring to the Planning Commission staff report, page 5 of 8, there's a schedule there regarding cannabis zoning regulations. And contrary to what you just said, it says that there is up to 3 storefront sales allowed and 1 + 1 delivery service operation allowed. So that contradicts what you said about a maximum of 3 combined. So I would ask that that be clarified before the next meeting. And then in referring to the resolution itself, there's no discussion in there about the impact on children as a result of these proposed resolutions. For instance, I think the state law, Prop 64, allows that 18-year-olds with a medical marijuana card are allowed to purchase marijuana. And there's no mention of that in any of these papers that I read today. So that needs to be addressed. And then I would also be interested in the plans for the revenue, how much revenue is planned to be generated and spent in policing activities, and some sort of a cost-benefit analysis to determine whether or not this is going to be in the best interests of the city. And again, regarding what's in the best interests of the city, I would refer the commission to the Municipal Code Section 6.56, which completely restricts smoking, and then take a look at the banners on San Mateo Avenue, which says all smoking is unhealthy. So this whole thing about medical marijuana dispensaries is completely contradictory to that. And so I think the commission should consider the underlying public policy regarding smoking in consideration of this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
All right, the next speaker just put their initials as BJM. So BJM, you are allowed to speak. You have 3 minutes.
Can you hear us, BJM?
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you folks hear me now? Sorry about that. I'll make it quick. I want to say that I'm, in general, in favor of these stores. But my 2 questions are, and I'll maybe follow up with one statement, but I guess my one question is, are the zoning laws for these dispensaries, are they any more onerous than they are for, let's say, a liquor store? Or I know San Bruno has a gun store. So I guess that's one question I have. If that can't be answered, I'd be interested in knowing what the answer for that is. My opinion is they shouldn't be any more onerous. But if anyone has any input on that, I'd like to know.
Just to be clear, there's not so much of a back and forth that you have 3 minutes to speak, and then we're going to collect notes and respond later.
Okay. Well, I guess I'd reiterate my first point. I'm in favor, for what it's worth. I'm not in favor of gun stores, but we have one of those. So I think the argument that these dispensaries are going to be any more dangerous than a gun store is potentially a joke for me. Something I think is ridiculous or denies that point. I guess the only other point I'd make, I'm not a big advocate of even these stores. I probably won't use them that much myself, but I know there's more forms of consuming cannabis other than smoking it. So if anyone's been in these dispensaries, there's edibles, there's liquids, there's all kinds of things. So I guess those are my points. I'm in favor. I'd rather have 3, I know we're talking about 3 dispensaries. I'd rather have 300 of those than 1 gun store. So I'm hoping, like I say, the zoning laws, if that comes into it, are no different than they would be for a liquor store or a gun store. That's it.
Thank you for your comment. Can we get our next speaker?
Next speaker is Anna V. You have permission to talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you so much for making this meeting available to the public. I was not aware of it until I received a mailer. I want to say thank you so much for sending out the mailer because I think it's important for all of the residents of the city of San Bruno to be aware of what is being planned in our community. Lately, as you all know, we're losing Tanfran, which is a big blow to our community and the well-being of our community. And I wanted to voice that same concern since we're discussing cannabis businesses coming into our city. I have a very big concern. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of San Bruno. I have 33 years of experience as a civil servant. And though I know medical marijuana is extremely important for people who have medical conditions, I have a very strong concern about these types of businesses coming into the city of San Bruno. I think that it will, this is a personal opinion, but drawing upon my experience as a civil servant, I think it may have a negative impact on our community in terms of the type of business that it is. I also live in the vicinity of San Mateo Avenue. I've seen it change drastically and dramatically over the decades, and we really need to bring in more businesses of quality to San Mateo Avenue and El Camino, especially now since we're losing Tanfran. We don't really have a very viable commercial district downtown that has, you know, a lot of good businesses. We're starting to get some good restaurants, but we really need to do a lot more. If you look at other cities like Millbrae, Burlingame, San Mateo, they have phenomenal downtown commercial districts that add to a, you know, a very positive, inviting environment to the city, which brings jobs and revenue to our community. I think the cannabis businesses are going to bring about a negative element. Marijuana is legal here in the state of California, but it is well known as being a gateway drug. It is a drug. And I think our community, especially for our children, especially for our families, we need to look into bringing positive businesses that will build our community in a, you know, take it into a positive direction where we're actually building community and bringing in businesses that will make people want to gather together and socialize and come together as a community. Is the public going to be able to vote on this? I think the public should have a voice in terms of deciding whether or not we want this type of business in our city. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Alfeo, can you bring the next speaker in?
Next speaker is Tim O'Brien.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak today. I'm not sure if, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you, Marco. Thumbs up. Just, you know, I've been to a dispensary. I'm not sure if all of you have been to a dispensary. The people are speaking, and also the commissioners and the chair. But I'm not a user, but my experience to one in San Francisco was a great experience. There's, you know, it's all just about business, getting in and out, and then either security at the front, not letting people, you know, hang out in front and smoke marijuana. It's not a place to do that. It's about getting, you know, it's like going to the pharmacy, you know, getting your goods, your medication, and leaving and going home and consuming it. Maybe some people might go, you know, just outside, but they don't let people around to hang out. It's not like a liquor store where they can, you know, hang out in the back or the front and drink a malt liquor and dump the can and go. You know, there's no security there. The police aren't, you know, policing the liquor stores like they should be, and the gun stores and the smoke shops. You know, the smoke shops, you know, they're you know, they're okay as well. I mean, but you know, liquor stores, they sell Juul. Those you know, kids get a hold of that. You know, so I don't see it as a negative thing, a negative impact to San Bruno. You know, the people have voted, and they want a business like this. They want to be able to get their goods from San Bruno. I mean, it positively impacts our revenue as a city, which we desperately need. And I'm glad things, you know, we're working on it slowly but surely. We're going to get there. So I think with the cannabis business, you know, 3 of them, that'd be great start. And then, you know, so I believe we should continue on with this discussion about cannabis in San Bruno, a storefront, a delivery, and another storefront, and go from there, and we'll flourish. and I promise you that it's going to be a positive impact to San Bruno. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any further hands?
Yes, we do. Next speaker is Mr. Gregory. You have permission to talk.
You're muted.
Hi, my name is Vaughn Gregory. I live on the 900 block of Green Avenue. Thank you very much for your time this evening. First of all, I have a couple of questions. They're theoretical. Why is the transit-oriented district targeted and designated for rezoning? Why not extend the cannabis qualifying zones to the west end of San Bruno, up among Bay Hill and the Crestmore neighborhood? I'll tell you why. It's because there would be tremendous neighborhood uproar and the rezoning would not take effect. Also, why is it necessary to designate just the transit-oriented district of San Bruno as the most likely site for cannabis? These residential neighborhoods in and surrounding the transit district have already suffered through rezoning. Why are you adding another rezoning to that will be detrimental to the neighborhoods? Do you really want San Bruno to be known as the city where you can take transit and catch a ride on BART to buy drugs? Next, in the Planning Department's report, it's flawed. The proposal identifies a myriad of enforcement issues for any distributor or retailer, but the report doesn't estimate the amount of city resources necessary to conduct the licensing, permitting, operational planning review, enforcement, etc. Clearly, there is an expectation for rising crime. Otherwise, why would there be such a keen focus on security and enforcement issues? San Bruno is already stretched thin providing enforcement of current rules and laws. We can't even enforce people sleeping on sidewalks, so especially in our transit-oriented district. And even assuming annual gross sales from cannabis were $1 million, the 10% gross receipts tax from cannabis sales would only amount to $100,000, which is clearly not enough to support the hiring of additional city staff to accommodate all these additional duties and enforcement. Where is the budget for these expenses? In addition, the documents contain more conflicting information. One of which is the number of dispensaries. The ordinance specifies 4, and the other documentation specifies 3, which you've cleared up tonight in your report. It also carves out certain youth centers in its definitions, and these youth centers are the private martial arts, yoga, ballet, music, and art studios, and many of these types of youth centers are located on San Mateo Avenue and fall into the exempt youth center category, and they're right in the heart of the cannabis qualifying zones. In short, cannabis retail centers would be permitted next door to your child's youth center activities. The proposed resolution has obvious discrepancies, and also the resolution determines that cannabis sales will not be detrimental to the health, safety, morals, and comfort and general welfare of the citizens of San Bruno. I'm offended by that. I do not agree. I also, just in closing, City of Belmont recently tabled further discussions on cannabis zoning due to neighborhood opposition, proximity to schools and parks, and safety concerns. In addition, one Belmont resident stated that these centers and retail shops do not enrich the quality of life. I totally agree, and I strongly encourage members of the Planning Commission to reject this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Just a reminder, we have 3 minutes for everyone, and if we can get our next comment.
Yeah, we have 4 more hands. Next hand is Chris and Dave.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Chris. Dave is in the other room. I'll speak for both of us that we're very supportive of cannabis businesses in San Bruno. We like the idea of it being on San Mateo Avenue. And one of the reasons we like that is because we are both connected to Pacifica very closely and have watched the transformation of Palbetto Avenue. in Pacifica, which has 3 dispensaries. The dispensaries become a destination. People don't often walk by them and go get cannabis. They seek them out and drive there, or in this case, transit there to buy medication and products. The revival of Palbetto Avenue in Pacifica is incredible. Now there's a yarn store down there. There's cafes, there are the antique places, and some of the same businesses that stuck it out this whole time are there. And they're thriving. The cannabis businesses bring people in who would not come to our city otherwise. They drop their money, they buy things and go. But they're not just sitting around loitering, as it seems like people think. They're buying other things. They're buying coffee. I went to the yarn store. There's an antique store. We buy other things there. We spend our money all around there because the cannabis brings us there. Anyway, I'm very supportive. It looks like the recommendation is for you to approve. We've already voted on this. We're not going to re-decide, or there's no more ballot to cast. We've already said yes to this. So I hope you'll approve it, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is David Lynn. You have permission to talk.
Hello, thank you for allowing me a moment to speak. I'll be brief. The proposal is favorable for my family. My only concern is walking Palmetto Avenue, and the exhaust system on the newest one, Bloom, does reek of THC. So please add to your requirements for their business licenses that they incorporate a scrubbing system of some nature so that that odor is not so offensive. It's strong if one were to walk the sidewalk, and that's a block from the ocean. So that's all I have to say. I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Rain. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Claudia Quinn. You have permission to talk. Claudia?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We definitely support the dispensaries and moving forward. We think it'll be a good thing for San Bruno. We need the money. The dispensaries will be quality, high-class places. We won't be bringing in any bad element that we can see. Folks, we have a gun store on El Camino Avenue. El Camino. It's such a blight to our city, especially when the lines were 3 blocks long during the quarantine. I just can't believe that we're having opposition to having a dispensary or 3. I think we should be fine. The police chief has already said that he doesn't foresee problems. So I think we just need to move on. It's already been voted on, as people say. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Okay. The next speaker is Lucy Moreno. You have permission to speak.
Guys,
yes.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Sorry, I know you're going to get that many times. But I'd like to start off with saying that from listening to some of the comments by some of my neighbors, it seems like there is a portion of public that's uneducated about marijuana here in San Bruno regarding its history, its medical use, and even its commercial use and like properties that it's used for. I believe it's imperative that this city, by the airport, have some type of cannabis education center for folks to educate themselves about cannabis and its use and its commercial use and how it's used everywhere, you know? Secondly, I'd like to start by saying that I noticed there's only 3 storefronts proposed. Can this lead to more in the future? And follow up on this, is there any regulation in regards to potential storefronts? And by what I mean is that our city is prime real estate since it's close to the airport. It would be great if we could support local owners and founders to these potential stores rather than commercial ones, such as an example would be Cookie SF, you know. And lastly, I don't know if there is something that you guys, if this is something this council decides or if it's a different council, but I'd like to know where the tax dollars from the I guess tax money would be collected from the sales for this, and where this money would be allocated towards, or if it's going to be set aside in a fund where we as, I guess, we as San Bruno folks can decide what that money could be used for, whether it be potential park projects, putting it back into our education system, or supporting local businesses. And yeah, that's it. I give up my time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Two more hands. The next hand is from Jeremy. You have permission to talk.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, just looking for my timer. Hey everybody, I'm here to show my support for this motion to dispense with the permit. And I'm just going to summarize my main points. First off, I believe having a recreational storefront would help the city address critical budget shortfall for city services and much needed infrastructure improvements. A storefront would increase foot traffic and patronage at our downtown businesses. And lastly, I would like to address some callers' concerns from some of the city residents who I believe are unjustly demonizing recreational marijuana users. This has been legalized since 2020 or even before then, and but in 2020 the voters in San Bruno said let Timmy smoke, and I think we should go along with that. This has already been voted on. I think if we can embrace both the true medicinal properties of this drug. I'm not someone who does that, but I think it is definitely proven that there is something for that. But also if we embrace the potential aspect of being so close to the airport, there is the tourism. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. I think I see 4 more hands still.
Next hand is from Pablo. You have permission to talk.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay, hello. Embracing cannabis as a city brings in a lot of revenue and city traffic. Those businesses like in that area, just more foot traffic and people to go there. And like people going in and out of the cannabis stores and using our public transportation like Caltrans or Samtrans is overall like a boon to the community. And then what is it? I was wondering though, more the opening of these businesses, and if demand is there, would consideration be done to see if you could expand on those businesses, whether it's just having more delivery services available to service the area, or just like more additional storefronts or locations in general. Lastly, I think like it's underrated the amount of reiterating back to the economic benefits, the that not just tax revenue alone, but just like beneficial commerce that it will bring. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I end my time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Sandra Perez. You have permission to speak.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hello, Sandra.
Perfect. I I've been having a lot of trouble getting on Zoom, so great. Okay, so we voted a long time ago that cannabis will be a great thing for San Bruno, and I agree. We already have delivery services delivering here and walking away with tax money that we should be holding onto in San Bruno. That doesn't make very much sense to me. And not allowing a dispensary here does not mean people are not going to be using it. And I'm also a part of a cleaning and greening San Bruno Now group. We go out, we clean up different parts of San Bruno. We focus a lot in our downtown. We really want to spruce it up. So what we find are a lot of cigarette butts, cigarette packages, beer bottles, booze bottles, and most of them we find directly in front of the liquor store. So that hasn't been an issue, for folks. Nobody's going crazy about that. That will not happen with a dispensary. As a matter of fact, the good folks from Flight in San Francisco have been coming down for the last 2 or 3 years to help us clean our city. They walk up and down the streets. They provide barbecues for the residents. And we have cleared probably well over 1,000 pounds in the time we've been cleaning. So that's one thing. Another thing, there are stores that are being rented on San Mateo Avenue. There are 3 in a row on one block that have no storefronts. That brings zero value to our community. What does bring value is the beautiful, clean storefront with security and having people coming in and out. No, people aren't using cannabis outside. They are getting their products and walking away. I, for one, would love to save money on gasoline and be able to walk right downtown, because I'm in the downtown area, and be able to purchase my products when I go down there and buy my produce, have a coffee. I would love to be able to do that. So for me, it's all a good win. What I think isn't a good win is having residents judging other residents on their morals. This isn't about our morals. This is about making adult decisions. When we walk into a dispensary, only we walk in with our IDs. We can't take our children with us. We have liquor stores where you can walk in with your children. They can walk in to get gum and walk out with a bottle. So, if people are really that concerned about our children, let's get that concerned, and let's be concerned about all of the human feces on San Mateo Avenue and all the littering, all the double parking, all the speeding. We should really be concerned about those safety issues, not legal cannabis, which has medicinal benefits.
15-second warning.
I use it every single day medicinally, every day. And it improves the quality of my life and many others, especially the folks that I take to dispensaries from the senior center and local churches. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Sean.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Sean Kelly-Rye, Silicon Valley Cannabis Alliance. I'm an advocate with the cannabis industry. I've worked with the City of San Jose in 2014 and 2015 in helping them draft their ordinance, with Redwood City recently in assisting them from the industry perspective on where to site cannabis, and working with the city manager and staff there for several years. Belmont as well, Union City, Hayward, and a number of other cities all the way down to Hollister and San Benito County. Cannabis can be done well. Like anything, there are good operators and there are bad operators. And I think it's your staff and you and city council can make intelligent decisions on getting really good retailers. This is retail like anything else. You can get really good retailers that can actually improve safety, which cannabis has proven because of cameras and because of on-site security. You can improve safety in areas, you can actually increase tax revenue, and you can actually have a safe environment and a legal environment for people to purchase tested, legal cannabis product. Since the passage of Prop 64, the total number of outlets for retail cannabis has gone down from 3,000 statewide to about 900. And that's because of local control. A lot of cities have decided to take the option of just saying no. And that's fine. That's the city's prerogative. But the problem that creates is that today, the size of the illegal market is twice as big, or 66% roughly, of the total cannabis market. And so the question you've got to ask yourself is, do you want your residents and do you want neighboring cities and residents there to have safe legal access? Or do you want them to purchase over the phone? Because the illegal market is not somebody on the street selling cannabis through a window. It's over the phone, and they deliver it to you. And the applications are great, just like any other apps that are for ill intent on the internet. I'll just cite one example of a city that did it well. Union City, a population of about 75,000 people. They opened one cannabis dispensary in their super regional shopping center. They have 11 million visits a year to that shopping center. A Best Buy, grocery stores, movie theaters. They saw a vacancy rate go up. They wanted somebody who would bring unique traffic. The dispensary that opened there has done both of that. It brings about 800 to 1,100 people a day, depending on the day, and is scheduled to bring in about $800,000 a year in tax revenue, excluding the $100,000 a year they give to the community for community benefits, which goes, part of it goes to the police department and also to anti-drug, alcohol, and other youth activities. So I just want to say that you can do it well, and you have the power to do it. And so I encourage you to do so. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Kalirai. I see a couple more hands. I think one of them is from somebody who already spoke.
Yes. Tim O'Brien, I would like to inform you that you could only speak on an item on the agenda. So the next hand is from Riley.
How's it going? Can you hear me? Cool.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you for this meeting. I believe a lot of people really touched on the positive of cannabis in San Bruno. It is well overdue for a city that is so close to the airport. We need something like this. The tax revenue is going to shoot. And what people really sleep on is that over 60% of users are for medical, and a lot of it is wellness products, which is like CBD bombs, tinctures, edibles, and patches. So I could understand why people that are uneducated on cannabis, especially on the medical side, just think that it's more recreational, that they're going to buy it, walk in the streets, smoke something, and then just cause some havoc. When really, anybody that smokes cannabis or knows anyone that smokes cannabis, the last thing anyone wants to do is wreak havoc. Another thing that I see as an opportunity is because of the lack of parking that dispensary will bring, I think this is a great time for the city to bring in the parking meters along San Mateo Avenue so that cars are not parked out all day, especially in designated lots. On top of that, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. What Tim O'Brien had mentioned before, and Lucy, I believe, said too, is that when you go to a dispensary, you're in and out. Nobody's going to stay on the streets and smoke their product, and security will make sure of that. And finally, the litter. Obviously, as a leader of the Cleaning and Greening community cleanup group, the only thing we really ever find are thousands of cigarette butts and broken bottles, which lead to broken glass in the street. I would say for every 500 to 600 cigarette butts, you might find one, cigar wrap or maybe a pipe. Personally, I've actually never seen a pipe, but when people say that this is going to be a problem and it's just going to cause crime, someone else had mentioned, statistically, our local PD even said that throughout the past couple of years, it's been decreasing. So I think we should be open-minded to this idea. The city could use it. The residents could definitely use it. And it shouldn't be something we should hold back on. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Gibbons. Is that our last speaker?
I see no more hands raised, Chair.
I do see Tim O'Brien raising his hand again. Could we just quickly check in with him to see if maybe there's a second person behind that Zoom call-in? Occasionally we do have two people.
Tim, you have permission to talk.
Yes, Raina would love to talk about this topic right now. Thank you. Thanks for checking in on us.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. This is Raina. Thank you for letting me talk. So I guess I agree with all the positive they have said, all the speakers before this evening have addressed the issue, the positive issues they will bring have cannabis in San Bruno. And to address the, some other speakers have mentioned about broken bottles, basically I walk Bruno and Bowie everywhere in San Bruno, and I find I'm basically lost count the amount of cigarette butts that I find in the drainage, and also broken bottles everywhere. And I think that would not happen if we have a cannabis shop in San Bruno, because it's going to be well regulated, secure. So, and we overdue to have this store, and the demand is there. We voted. So you need to basically listen to us. We the residents want this in our city. We now basically we voted, so it is being approved. So please move forward and open it ASAP. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment, and apologies about the confusion earlier. It only occurred to me just now that it could be just different people. All right. I think we don't have any more hands. Do we have a motion to close our public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Chair Harmon?
Aye.
Vice Chair Madden?
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Aye.
Commissioner Durazo?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson? Oh, sorry, they're not here. Commissioner Leffin?
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. So I don't know if we want to quickly kind of review the substantive issues from our comments that could be brought back for further discussion at the next meeting, Pamela, in terms of what we're going to be conveying to Michael Laughlin for response.
Mr. Chair, if I can make a recommendation, is that staff will consolidate all the questions from today's presentation and include that as part of the staff report and also the presentation for you to consider when you consider the item altogether next month. And with that said, I would ask Planning Commission to consider taking a vote on continuing this to the August 16th Planning Commission meeting.
So I was hoping to put in just a couple of comments for things that I think are a little bit complicated and that might be useful to respond to in the next month rather than right now. Myself, I don't know if anybody else. We could just continue it, but I did have at least one somewhat more complicated question. So I was sort of hoping to do at least a quick round of if there are any items that the commission would like to add to the sort of list to be addressed at the next meeting. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything, or I can just let you know what mine was.
Through the chair, I encourage you to pitch in. I found this a really useful conversation, even though I don't really have a lot of feedback right now, but I'm going to go and explore in nearby cities, and I think this is a really useful talk, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, okay. You know, there are 3 points, 2 fairly small. One was just that in reading through the process, we were accepting our document packages on a flash drive, and it seemed peculiar that in 2022 we don't have a secure document upload mechanism. I know a lot of companies actually won't even allow you to put flash drives into corporate laptops anymore because of the concerns around how in the PC, the Windows world in particular, those drivers are notoriously insecure. that just a little odd little point. I saw Brisbane had, in the table of the nearby cities, Brisbane had by right permitting in specified zones, which I wondered whether that applied to an area that was already specifically zoned for like industrial or biotech type uses, where it seemed surprising to see a by right, but interesting. It did seem like possibly we could adopt something similar in that commercial industrial zone if we're going to do a delivery business, but it's something worth looking at. I was curious, the table did not cover like what businesses have been permitted under each of these regimes. Like, you know, I mean, the question is like, we presumably would like to actually attract businesses and open some storefronts. Like if we're going to do this at all, we don't want to just like pass the regulations and then have them float. So in terms of comparing to other cities, it would be useful to know what regimes have resulted in opening the businesses that are allowed under the rules. And the last thing that's a more, I think, complex issue, and one of our commenters actually hinted at this. My understanding is that there are some areas that have tried to put in restrictions on kind of the business ownership structure so that you don't have kind of a big statewide business, sort of a more primarily extractive, profit-driven, you know, that's trying to return money to investors, you know, that is maximizing shareholder value as their primary goal. I think some other states, I think is it Colorado possibly, where they've really made it quite difficult to do large businesses, and so you get more of a localized market in each area. And I wasn't sure whether staff had explored those comparisons and what we could do to encourage, you know, really local ownership and smaller businesses. And so that I think could be just, you know, I'm not looking for an answer right now, but I would be curious to know whether that has played into our design of this ordinance. Just a really quick review, and I took my own kind of notes on what the main substantive points were. I mean, I know there was a comment around the sensitive uses overlapping with the transit corridor zone, and my understanding, my interpretation was that the sensitive use locations, the 600-foot boundary is specifically banned. So those are carve-outs. We are not like, you couldn't put a cannabis business next to a pavilion. So, yeah, there were some other technical points, but yeah, I mean, I think the rest of that can all be discussed in a summary at the next meeting. So that's pretty much what I've got. Do we have any other comments, or do we want a motion to continue? Seeing no other comments, I will myself move to continue this conversation to the August 16th meeting.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Harmon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Madden.
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti.
Aye.
Commissioner Durazo.
Aye.
Commissioner Levin.
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you, Eliseo. Thank you for your presentation, Director Wu. Let's see. All right.
So that will take care of your public hearing and conduct of business. There are 2 items under items from staff, and I'll take care of the easy one first from you, which is where I'm looking for volunteers to serve the August ARC meeting that falls on August 11th. If I can have show of hands for the August meeting. I have Chair Harmon, and Commissioner Morgan. Don't you all do it once. I need two more, sorry. I need a third one and a backup.
Everyone going on vacation in August?
What was the date again?
August 11th.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So I have Commissioner Biosati. So I'll take on three, and if somehow there's a conflict of interest, we'll reach out again for the backup. Thank you. There is another item on the agenda that's not shown. So I have had a pleasure working with all of you in my very short tenure with the City of San Bruno. You guys have indulged me and watched me grow from the planning housing manager now to the director. You're part of my San Bruno circle. I am saddened to announce to you that I have taken up another job offer, and August 5th will be my last day with City of San Bruno. Moving forward, I'll be starting as the city manager for City of Cupertino towards the end of August. Thank you for your support. San Bruno, City with the Heart will always be in my heart. I've grown to know each one of you, probably not as much with Commissioner Madden and Commissioner Durazo, but Commissioner Lynn, Commissioner Harmon, Commissioner Biasotti, Commissioner Morgan, thank you for your support. I wish Commissioner Johnson is here, then I can tell her how grateful I am for her support as well.
Thank you, Pamela. We will miss you.
Yeah, best of luck for the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for all you've done for our city and for us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you for all the good words. And so with that said, Mr. Chair, I'll turn the meeting back to you.
Thank you. So do we have any items for members?
I just want to take a moment to say thank you, Pamela.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure working with you.
Roughly coming up on 3 years for myself, and I know I've learned a lot from you over the period. So somebody is going to have big shoes to fill. All right. On that note, I don't see any other items being offered, and so we are at the point for our adjournment. The next regular meeting is scheduled for August 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m. We will be back to take action on our cannabis item. Thank you to all the members of the public. Oh, it's not in here, but we are supposed to ask if there are any other comments on items not on the agenda one last time. Give just a moment for hands. I see no hands. All right, that said, we are adjourned until August 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your long service, or long-ish, I mean, what is time in the pandemic anyway? But thank you, Pamela, and good evening. See you all next month.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.